Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Toilets to Titles, the Wednesday night NFL show with me, your host, Joe. I hope everything's well. I just literally rolled in through the door from Washington, D.C. I was scouting out Washington Commanders territory for you, all my fans out there, just for the heck of it. So I just rolled in like 5 minutes ago and just hopped right on to do the show. I hope everyone's having a great week. We have just wrapped up week 7 of the NFL, and we're entering week 8, and I'm dying to talk about all these games that we just went through, the games that we've got coming up. The theme of the season so far still remains. It's the rise of the crappy teams. The crappy teams aren't taking it anymore. They're rising up and they're winning games, and it's still going on, middle of the season at this point. And we've got a lot of teams that we normally have a lot of faith in that we think is going to at least that we expect to do well, who are so far not doing well, but there's a lot of season left. We're not even at the halfway mark. We're getting there. We're close, but there's a lot of season left. And I think a lot of teams that a lot of us expected a lot from this year, quite a few teams, which we're going to get into details a little later. There's still time for them to right their ship. I have not written those teams off at all. It sounds like a lot of analysts and maybe some fans of those teams who are disappointed are kind of writing them off, but I'm not writing these teams off. And there's like 3 or 4 or 5 really good teams out there that I have not written off yet. But anyway, before we get into the details, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. And if you can, really appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that 5-star Apple review. Why? Because we deserve it. Where you can follow the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. And if you go to our website, if you can go to patreon.com/Toilets and Titles, you can learn how you can further support the show. I just want to give a hearty thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. It means so much to us. We actually gained like 2 or 3 new Patreon supporters this week. And listen, anything that that you contribute to us, money wise, goes back into producing this show. We've got like 15 contributors here at Toilets and Titles that produce videos and articles. Some of them do both, and it all goes back in trying to make these shows just the best product for you and very enjoyable. So thank you. Special shout out to each of our Patreon supporters. And last but not least, our website, toiletstotitles.com. It has all of our videos, articles, and we produce content on anything football wise, except for high school football, or flag football. We don't do that. But NFL, college football, NFL draft content, we have it all. We got whatever you want. If you love football, we are the content creators for you. Now, let's get into the details of week 7 games. And this is a game, you see my little asterisk marks. This is a game, one of the games I want to spend a little more time on because the Cardinals are now 3-4. They just won. They defeated the Saints, who are now 2-5. The final score was 42-34. Key thing here, DeAndre Hopkins is back. And it was a noticeable difference with this offense because the Arizona Cardinals offense was looking like garbage. Everyone was down on them. Everyone was doubting, Kyler Murray and the new contract, yada, yada, yada. He had nothing out there. Hollywood Brown's a pretty decent wide receiver, but he was never a true number one anyway. He's done for the year with an injury anyway. And Rondale Moore had been out as well. Their rookie second-round pick from last year. He'd been out for most of the season so far. DeAndre Hopkins is back. I believe Moore is back as well. Really all he had out there was Zach Ertz to throw to. And the Cardinals defense has been playing well this year, just like they did last year. The Cardinals defense overall has been pretty good this year. I'd say it was more stout last year maybe, but now that Hopkins is back and the offense can put points up, maybe that'll take some pressure off the defense. But defense hasn't been bad for Arizona. But I expect they're going to look better and better now too. Now that they've got Hopkins back, they can keep the ball, they can put up more points, put more pressure on the opposing team. That's good for the Cardinals. So anyway, it's not a coincidence that DeAndre Hopkins comes back, first game back, and the Cardinals put up 42 points. It's not a coincidence at all. So they're 3-4, and this is one of the teams I was talking about at the beginning of this episode when I said there's like 3 or 4 or 5 teams that many people expected so much more from. Cardinals was one of them. I was certainly one of those people who had high expectations for the Cardinals. They were just missing too many weapons. It gets to a point where there's too much to overcome. Yeah, the idea of the concept, and it's true that listen, every team goes through injury, some more than others on any given year, and there's got to be a next man up mentality. But it gets to a point where when you just don't have the talent, there's only so much talent you can bring up in your practice squad or the street, and it's going to make a difference. There's only so much you can elevate players like that. But Cardinals are cooking right now. I think they're going to start getting hot. I haven't looked at the schedule, but that is a seriously talented team, and I think they're going to get hot. DeAndre Hopkins came back just in time because I do think the Cardinals are going to start rattling off some wins right now. But they took care of the Saints, who, in my opinion, are not looking good at all. It's indicative of their season of their record, excuse me. And they put up 34 points, but man, this team would have been in prime position and really good position to draft a quarterback in 2023 with this very heavy, so far, very heavy quarterback draft that's coming out in 2023. Saints would have been in prime position, but they traded that pick before this previous draft. They traded to the Eagles. The Eagles now have it. I think it's like as of right now, it might be the fifth overall pick in the draft. Eagles have it. I assume the Eagles are not going to be, drafting a quarterback because obviously Jalen Hurts is just kicking butt. But the flexibility that gives the Eagles, it's amazing. And I would expect them to trade back, to a team that wants a quarterback, and they're going to accumulate even more picks. So genius move by the Eagles, incredibly stupid by the Saints front office. I don't know what they were thinking in trading next year's pick to basically wind up with Olave in the first round. And I love Olave. It's nothing against Olave. It just made no sense at all to make that move. But anyway, so the Saints, honestly, I think that's a fireable decision by that front office from the Saints. That was just a really horrible, stupid decision because there's no way you want to be moving forward with Jameis Winston as your quarterback for the next few years. No way, no way. Anyway, the Cardinals, this is really more about the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to see them look more like the first 10 games of last year now, where they're putting up points. Defense is going to be really stout. I think the Cardinals are going to start making, for the second half of the year, a playoff push. I think you're going to see them start winning a lot more games. Okay, let's move on to the Bengals. Talk about righting a ship. The Bengals are starting to right their ship. They were another team defending AFC champions who had a very shaky start to the season. They took care of the fighting Atlanta Falcons, who are now 3-4. The final score was 35-17. Bengals needed this game. Let me tell you, Falcons are not easy, and I am surprised. I mean, the Bengals are capable of putting 35 points up on anyone, but the Falcons for the past year and a half, this year so far, and even pretty much all of last year, the Falcons have been in all of the games. I really respect that because I didn't expect much from that team at all for the past year and a half. The Falcons have been sticking around. They're 3-4. They're a gutsy team. I really like them a lot, but Bengals showed up. They were no mood to play around. They took care of business here. Joe Burrow had a great game, and that's good to see. They still have offensive line worries. They still have offensive line worries, and if that team has offensive line worries, I'm scared. Listen, my team, the Giants, has offensive line worries. Other teams do as well. What just scares me with the Bengals is just that Burrow suffered that really bad injury a year and a half ago. What was his rookie year actually, due to the fact that the offensive line was so bad and the dude was getting killed, and he was getting killed this year as well. So the offensive line for the Bengals were serviceable. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl. You're really not going to go to the Super Bowl without at least a serviceable offensive line. It wasn't great last year, but it was serviceable. Serviceable. It was good enough for Burrow to distribute the ball to his weapons. But listen, the Bengals are 4-3. That is a very talented team, and they actually have a pretty good defense too. So they're starting to right their ship. Things are starting to go right in Bengals land. They're 4-3. And now let's move on to the Cowboys taking care of the Lions. The Cowboys are 5-2. I have them in my mind behind the Eagles as the second best team in the NFC, and it's close because that defense the Cowboys are building is something that's really, really good. And man, I'll tell you, if the Cowboys decide next year in this upcoming draft to get some more high end picks to put to their defense, it could wind up being a really super dominant defense. I'm thinking like in the realm of like the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens. I think the Cowboys defense going forward for the next few years has that type of potential. I think it's really scary how good they can be. They took care of the Lions, who are in a tailspin now, 24-6. The Lions are now 1-5. Listen, this is like the second week in a row where the Lions have put up only a handful of points. I think a lot of it has to do with the injuries they've suffered in offense. Yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. He was back for this game. I think he's fully healthy now, but they're also missing DeAndre Swift, and that is their bread and butter guy. That is the guy that is really is the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. And so they need him back at 100% because he's like honestly he's like a Saquon Barkley and a Chubb. He's like when that guy's healthy, as he was showing earlier this year, DeAndre Swift was looking like an elite running back. He's in that class when it looks like he's in that class when he's healthy and on the field. So they need DeAndre Swift. They need him bad. They weren't going to beat the Cowboys anyway. They weren't going to beat the Cowboys, but the Lions, when they were putting up a boatload of points for like the first like 5 games of the season, I don't think that was a fluke. I think the offense was really clicking. They do have really good weapons, and Goff has never been a bad quarterback. It was time for him to move on from LA. It was, but he was never a bad quarterback. And they were performing very well before Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift went down. And you lose talent like that, it's not easy to put up points. But anyway, they were going up against a tremendous defense. Also for the Cowboys, this is Dak's first game back. So, hey, listen, hats off to Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback for Dallas, who got them through the first 6 games. He got them to 4-2. And I know a lot of it really kind of rested on the defense for the Cowboys. But Cooper Rush, man, he managed things perfectly. He really didn't make many mistakes. They lost the first game to the Buccaneers 19-3, and that was when Dak went out with an injury. And then the next few games, Cooper Rush performed very, very well. No mistakes. That's all you can ask for a backup quarterback. And he let the defense really take care of things. And the other loss they had was against the Eagles. I mean, there's no heart, no shame in losing the Eagles, even with a starting quarterback like Dak. So I mean, that was Cooper Rush who was at the helm for that game. But listen, point being that Cooper Rush got them to helped get them to 4-2. He helped keep that ship afloat. Cowboys are in really, really good position for the rest of the year. They just got their starting quarterback Dak up, back at the helm. They're in great shape right now. And Dalton Schultz also played this game, and he had like his share of targets and receptions. I think Schultz put up something like 46 or 50 yards or something like that. And that's good. And he's capable of doing so much more because I know he's a really favored weapon of Dak. So as long as Schultz is healthy and he's out there, look for him to start producing again. It was good to see. I actually had gotten Dak on like 3 of my fantasy teams. I'm in 5 fantasy teams, and I had picked him up on 3 of my fantasy teams because my plan all along was to wait to get Schultz like in the 8th round, and he was there in all these leagues, and I got him, and I figured I just had a steal, and I have no doubt that if he hadn't been injured, and if Dak had not been injured, that Schultz would have been a steal, and he still may be. I did have to drop him eventually, like 2 weeks ago, because I couldn't wait for him anymore. There's some other tight ends out there that were producing at a pretty consistent basis, like Bellinger and a few others even though Bellinger's probably gone for the season now with a serious eye injury. But point being that there actually were some other tight ends out there that were putting up consistent numbers for decent floor. So I felt like in 2 of those leagues I had to drop Schultz. I did keep him in one because I had the space, and I'm glad I did because I think Schultz is going to take off as well. All right, guys. All right, I got this game wrong here. The Titans are now 4-2. They defeated the now 3-1 Colts, 19-10. I had felt coming into this game that things were looking really good, much better for the Colts offense, for Matt Ryan, that he was in a new offense and now he was getting adjusted because he had put up something like well over 300 yards the previous week. Colts took care of business. They had won that previous game. And I figured they were going to matched up against the Titans that they would win a pretty close game, but that they would win it and they'd start to take control of this division. I was wrong. The Titans never, remember the Titans. Certainly never forget the Titans because this is a well-coached team. I don't think they're the most talented team, but they're a well-coached team, and they got the win here against the divisional rival. I think they defeated the Colts twice this year. I could be wrong about that, but they did at least get this win. They're now 4-2. The Colts are benching Matt Ryan for the rest of the year, and that is from the decision by the owner of the team, Jim Irsay. And they're going to go with the backup quarterback, Ellinger, I think his name is Sam Ellinger. I think that's his name. And honestly, I don't blame Irsay. I don't blame him because I would be sick and tired of the quarterback carousel that's been going on with the Colts for the past few years. And listen, They were put in a really difficult position a few years ago, obviously, when Andrew Luck retired. And I don't blame him. I don't blame Luck. But it did put the Colts in a really bad position. But when you've gone through like four additional quarterbacks over the past 4 years, and they're all veterans, I get trying to do that because the Colts do have a talented team, and they go for these proven veteran quarterbacks who are way up there in age, but they're savvy, smart quarterbacks, and you got some decent weapons on offense now, but it's probably not going to be enough. Even if Matt Ryan started off game one looking really, really good, I don't think it was going to be good enough for the Colts to go to the Super Bowl this year. So at this point, you know what? If the Colts can basically play for, kind of lose games. Listen, I wouldn't, if I'm a fan of a team, I'm not rooting for a team to lose the games, but they do need a quarterback. They need a young quarterback. They need to restart a quarterback. And this move, benching Ryan and going with the backup quarterback for the rest of the year, the Colts probably won't win too many games, I would assume, even though they still have talent. I'm not saying they're going to lay down for anyone, but the Colts do need to get their hands on a young quarterback in this upcoming draft. That would be ideal. That would be ideal. But I'll tell you that team has a lot of talent. And as some Colts fans like Justin here of Toss the Titles have been, complaining about, I guess rightfully so, is that Frank Reich has not been running the ball enough this year. They've got a good running game. He hasn't been running the ball enough, and trying to, I guess, go to the air game a little too much. Matt Ryan, and listen, they've got pretty good wide receivers. Pittman's a really good wide receiver, and then Alec Pierce, the rookie second round quarterback, he's coming along very nicely. They're like previous before this game, like the three games before that, he was getting better and better and better. You can see the improvement in the guy. So he was looking good. But listen, they've got weapons, but I don't blame the owner at all. I don't blame the owner at all for wanting to, stop the quarterback carousel. And I assume the plan is to do whatever they have to get to secure themselves a rookie quarterback in next year's draft in the first round. That's my assumption. Anyway, Titans are 4-2, but I'll tell you, this division is by no means sewn up for any team. Don't forget the Jaguars, who just played my Giants this weekend. The Jaguars have been in every single game this year. They had two impressive wins earlier this year against the Chargers and I forgot, and the Colts, I believe, and the Colts. The other games that they've lost, and not just to the Giants, but to some other really talented teams out there, they've all been close games. They've all been close games. The Jaguars have Titans, and they're well coached. The Jacksonville Jaguars are serious up and comers, and I wouldn't count them out for winning the division this year. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying don't sleep on the Jaguars. That's a talented team, man, really talented, and they may be even more talented on defense than they are on offense. Okay, let's move on to this. This is an upset. Listen, I know the Packers, the Commanders, who are now 3-4, they upset the Packers, who are now 3-4, 23-21. I know the Packers have not been playing like anyone expected, and their fans are obviously the most seriously disappointed. But man, there is no way I would have picked in a million years for the Commanders to pick to defeat the Packers. No way. But yet it happened, and that was with Taylor Heineke at the helm. Carson Wentz, I believe, is injured. I don't think he's going to be seen. I believe he's injured, but he's not going to be seen. Even if he is healthy sometime soon, he's not going to be seen. He's not going to be starting again. It's going to be Tyler. It's going to be Taylor Heineke the rest of the way, and I would assume the Commanders are trying to put themselves in a position. I think they're trying to win games. I think they've given up on Wentz, but I think they probably figured too, the Commanders, that hey, listen, if we don't win games, or try to get in best position we can next year to draft a quarterback. But they pulled the upset against the Packers. Very impressive. Brian Robinson, running back for the Commanders. He actually had a pretty decent game. His first game back last week wasn't bad. He put up something like 60 yards, not too bad. He had a lot of touches. He also did get a touchdown the previous week. This week, I don't think he had a touchdown, but he put up some more yardage. Looking pretty solid. I do think there's a definitive ceiling with Brian Robinson that I don't think he's going to be any type of elite running back, but I think he can be a real workhorse running back, and he can give you fantasy points, in the flex position. I don't think he's ever going to be like a fantasy RB1 or RB2 or anything like that, but I think this dude could wind up being, and even this year, wind up being a decent flex running back, where he's going to give you a decent floor. And so, but anyway, Commanders pull the upset against the reeling Packers, and the Packers are reeling. I know after this game that quarterback Aaron Rodgers said, "Don't panic," and he's right. And if Aaron Rodgers is telling his team, "Hey guys, don't panic," I'd follow his lead. I wouldn't panic either because I think things can get better. I'm kind of surprised that some of the younger wide receivers aren't making that much of an impact yet. We just passed week 7. I did think by this time one of those two young guys would have, stepped up or just kind of like, really stood out from the rest of the pack. It hasn't happened yet, but they are talented. I'm talking about Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs. So the potential's still there. It just hasn't shown up yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys sometime soon does wind up really producing, but it hasn't happened yet. And listen, the running game hasn't been performing as well either. I got to go with blaming the head coach. I assume that maybe he's not the genius that he's been made out to be. You know, but listen, I can never give up on Aaron Rodgers. And if I can't give up on Aaron Rodgers, and I can't give up on the Packers, this is yet another team like the Cardinals and the Rams, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Another team, and obviously the Buccaneers. These are teams that we expected so much more from, and they've been completely underwhelming. But there's still so much season for these teams who are led by really good quarterbacks to turn things around. There's plenty of time left. But that was a shocking upset. And man, talk about a shocking upset. This one's even bigger. The 2-5 Panthers, who just unloaded Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers for a slew of like second and third round picks, they upset the reeling Buccaneers, who are 3-4. Final score was 21-3. This is crazy. I don't even know what happened in this game. I didn't have a chance to really check out the details of this game, but this is crazy. I know Mike Evans had a big drop, but whatever. 21-3, that is incredible. So, I mean, this is yet another team of veterans that has a great quarterback at the helm. And no, I don't think Brady just all of a sudden got old, even though he is like 44 years old, and it could happen at any time where he just gets old. But we've been hearing that for like 12 years. So I don't think it's that he's old. I think there's something else going on. You know, just maybe his head is not in it because the divorce with Giselle. But also with the rest of the team, listen, they also have a new head coach. Bruce Arians isn't there anymore. They've got what's his name? I forgot their defensive coordinator became the head coach. Brain farting on the name right now, but listen, he was the head coach before with the Jets. He wasn't very good. He wasn't good, but then again, that was with the Jets. Well, I'm not crapping on because they're having a great year, but for the past 10 years, everything went wrong with the Jets, and so the Buccaneers head coach remains the head coach of the Jets. He didn't do very well at all, but listen, it could be that he's not meant to be a head coach, and maybe Bruce Arians was very good at keeping those guys focused, and the new head coach isn't. I have a feeling that's more it than anything, to be honest with you. I don't know really that much about the Buccaneers situation. That's just my feeling because I still believe in Brady. I believe Brady would not have gone back to playing football if he didn't believe in himself. So if Brady believes in himself, I believe in Brady. I don't think it's a Brady issue. There could be some issues like whether or not his head is in it, but I think that guy is just so football consumed that his head is in it. I have a feeling this is more of a coaching issue. Just my feeling from from a distance, But anyway, Panthers, and I don't know if I were the owner of this team, I might be a little upset that they got this win, even though you always want to win, because this is a team that desperately needs yet another team that desperately needs a young quarterback, and they need to get as high a pick as possible so they don't have to trade future assets in order to secure themselves a quarterback in this next class who's got a boatload of potential. So I don't know. Watch it with those wins, Panthers. I don't know if you want more wins, but watch it with those wins. But that is a stunning upset. That's probably the biggest upset this week. That was incredible. Yeah, but again, the Buccaneers, just like the Packers, just like the Cardinals, just like the Rams, who we're going to get to, the Buccaneers still have plenty of time and certainly the proven experience and talent and quarterback to turn this around. Um, let's move on to the Giants. My Giants are now 6-1. They defeated the feisty up and coming Jaguars, who are 23-7. The final score was 23-17. This game was crazy. It went down to the wire. That last minute of that game where the Jaguars were knocking on the door, it never, ever, ever should have happened. I love Saquon, but he made like three boneheaded mistakes. One, it was the same mistake each time. Within the final few minutes, he ran out of bounds three times instead of letting the clock run, and the Jaguars were out of timeouts. He should have let the clock run, and it was a mistake. But it was three mistakes, the same mistake in a row, and it almost cost them the game. Giants were able to make a great stand at the end, like a la the Rams and Titans Super Bowl back in like '99 or wherever it was, where Kevin Dyson was stopped 1 yard short of the end zone. Giants pulled that off just like they pulled the victory off just like that. This was a good game, man. This is a good game. Daniel Jones, I love the guy. I've defended him throughout his entire career at the Giants. I was disappointed. To be honest, I was disappointed when he was drafted because I wanted Josh Allen at that time. I would have been fine if they drafted him at 16 or 17, whenever the Giants had that second pick in the first round. But I wanted Josh Allen, the defensive end. Um, who's on the Panthers. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, he's on the Jaguars. That's who I wanted. But when he was drafted, he became my quarterback, and I defended him not out of because he's my quarterback for my team, because I've always liked what I saw from Daniel Jones, and I'm really glad that what I saw him, and I'm not gonna go into all the detail, but what I've seen in the guy for the past few years is that if you put consistency around him, he can be a consistent quarterback and then so much better than that. He can be a really good NFL quarterback. And he had probably his best game this year so far. It was only like 200 passing yards, which is kind of like the norm for him this year, but also 100 rushing yards too. And the thing is that he's learning, when to use his legs. His legs are a serious threat. And but he's also his pocket manipulation, his progressions going through his reads have been phenomenal this year. They've gotten better. The first two, 3 games, it was kind of shaky. After that, bam, he's been like lights out. He's been beautiful. He's been really good. And the Giants pulled out another, heart attack win here. No wins have been easy for this team at all this season. But I got to say, I was really impressed with the Jaguars. And like I said earlier, the Jaguars, they only have 2 wins, but pretty much in every single game, I think every single game, they put up a really good fight, and every game has been close. So Jaguars have been tough. They're well coached now, and they have a lot of good young talent on both sides of the ball. And Trevor Lawrence is looking like he's looking like what we expect him to be when he came out of college. He's looking like a franchise quarterback. He's not putting up franchise quarterback numbers yet. He's not, but you can see it. It's there. He's having a good year. It's just a matter of time. I fully believe in Trevor Lawrence, and Jaguars are in great position. They've got good young talent. They're going to add to that over the upcoming years, and they've got a good head coach. So they're in a good position, the Jaguars. The Giants, they're 6-1. They're second place in the NFC East. It's tough. I mean, the NFC East is the NFC beast this year. It really is. You've got the Eagles, who are 6-0. I think they had the bye this week. Giants are 6-1. The Cowboys, who just got Dak back, I think they're really the second best team in the NFC East. They just got Dak back. They are 5-2. So it's gonna be a crazy second half of the year to see who winds up filling out the rest of the playoff spots. In the NFC, it's gonna be really really crazy. But hats off to my Giants, man. They've been playing great, and they have been yet again one of the most injured teams in football, pretty much for like the 10th year in a row. Pretty much for the 10th year in a row. I think this year they are the third most injured team. And man, every time they suffer an injury, like they just lost Bellinger, the young tight end, probably for the rest of the year. He was looking great. They also lost two offensive linemen, at least for a period of time, not for the entire year, but they lost Evan Neal, the rookie right tackle, who was getting better and better and better each week. And they also lost Bretterson, who is their young left guard, who they acquired last year from the Ravens, who was getting better and better and better, surprisingly, getting better and better each game as well. And that offensive line for the Giants is actually, since week 3, the first 3 weeks were very shaky, but ever since then they've gotten better and better and better. And to lose these two guys probably for like a month minimum, it's like, man, how much next man up can you possibly do? How much next man up can you possibly do? It's just for me, it's kind of dispiriting. I'm so happy about the season. Don't get me wrong. And what I'm happiest about as a Giants fan is that the coaching I knew there was talent on this team. I didn't see the 6-1 talent, but I knew there were quite a few good building blocks for this team to build from. And what it needed was smart coaching, and they've got that in spades on both sides of the ball, and headed by a guy who seems to be a really, really smart head coach, and Brian Dable. Giants are in good position. Jacksonville Jaguars, you guys are in really good position as well. The record doesn't reflect it. Don't worry about that. Worry about how your young guys are progressing. That's what you focus on this year. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I'm a big fan of your team. I really am. Really big fan of your team. Okay, the Ravens 4-3 took care of the Browns, who are now 2-5, 23-20. For the Browns, Deshaun Watson can't come back fast enough. I think it's week 11 when he can come back, or game 11, whatever. And this division's still up for grabs. It could be the Ravens, it could be the Bengals. I don't think it's going to be the Browns. I don't think they're going to stick around close enough to wind up winning the division, even if Deshaun Watson comes back week 11. I could be wrong about that, but still, he's got to get used to the offense. He hasn't been on the field in a very long time. We'll see what happens with that, but I do expect either the Bengals or the Ravens, and I do think it's going to be the Bengals. I do think it's going to be the Bengals. I expect the Bengals or the Ravens to win that division. I don't think there are going to be two teams coming out of making the playoffs out of this division. Steelers are kind of reeling. Um, they've got their, listen, they're trying to, they've got the young quarterback, and it's going to take some time for him to grow. Kenny Pickett, he hasn't been all that impressive. I don't think he's been horrible either, but he looks like a rookie quarterback. He just looks so he's going to need time. Pittsburgh will need time. We'll get to Pittsburgh in a little bit though, but I do expect that either the Bengals or the Ravens, and I think more likely the Bengals are going to take control of this division very soon. Um, Ravens definitely have their holes, man. They definitely have their holes outside of Lamar. Even though they did get Gus Edwards back and he did have something like 2 touchdowns, good for them. Hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully we'll see. The Ravens running backs are always getting injured. They're an often injured team as well. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, the Jets. Talk about the crappy teams rising up and not taking anymore. Just like the Giants, just like the Seahawks, who we'll talk about in a little bit. The Jets are 5-2, and they look legit. At least the defense looks legit. And they just lost Brees Hall, big blow. Okay, so the Jets are 5-2. They defeated the Broncos, who are now 2-5 and reeling, 16-9. Broncos are a mess. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. We know they've been all season long. It's been a mess over there. We'll see if Russ can get straightened out. We'll see what happens with him. But the Jets are looking great. They lost Brees Hall, and that sucks because Brees Hall was looking like the man. He was looking like he was a true RB1. He was looking so damn good. But you know what? He'll be back. He'll be fine. He'll be back at some point next year. It's going to give you something really good to look forward to when you get that guy back. But Brees Hall has been having a monster season, looking like a great, great pick, for the Jets, and he'll be back next year. You guys will be happy. He's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Long term, you got Brees Hall. Be happy about that. The Jets defense has been great. I know the Broncos offense has been struggling the entire year, but however, listen, going into Denver is never easy, especially when you're a team like the Jets, like my Giants, a team that's been bad for 10 years. To go into Denver and to win the game is never easy. And I don't care what Broncos team you're going up against, it's never easy. This is a good kudos win to the Jets. It really is. Good win for them. Zach Wilson didn't really do much as far as I recall. That past two weeks, he's put up like 170 yards, 150 yards, something like that. Nothing flashy. Maybe a touchdown pass. Maybe he ran in for a touchdown. Nothing too flashy, but it didn't really matter because they didn't really need it against the Broncos. And yeah, Brees Hall, that running game is going to be their bread and butter until Zach Wilson, you know, is brought along further as he's developed further down, until Zach Wilson is developed further. They're going to be relying on the running game. And I realize Brees Hall was a huge loss. But they still have Carter, and they traded for James Robinson. And I love that trade. I know James Robinson wasn't having a good year at Jacksonville this year. I have not given up on him. I think the team just wanted to gravitate towards Travis Etienne and just make him the focal point of their run offense. I don't think it's a Robinson thing. I really don't. I think Robinson. I think Robinson. I would if I were you, I'd grab Robinson up as much as I can because I think he's going to wind up being the RB1 for the Jets for the rest of the year over Carter. I don't think Carter is an RB1. I think he can be a decent weapon out of the backfield, but I think James Robinson can be an RB1. I think he will wind up being the RB1 for the Jets pretty quickly. I don't think it's Carter. I know the conventional thinking is that Carter is going to take over and James Robinson's going to back him up, and maybe that's how it'll start off, but I don't think it's going to stay that way for long. Anyway, good pickup by the Jets. They didn't give up much. I think they gave up like a sixth round pick for Robinson. That was a steal because I think this guy I think he's going to be really good on the Jets. I think he's going to a good place for himself, a team that likes that likes running the ball, that's done a good job running the ball this year. Even though the Jets they put Elijah Vera Tucker, the really really good young offensive lineman. He did go on the IR. I don't know if it's for the rest of the season or just like 4 weeks. I didn't catch that, but I do know that Elijah Vera Tucker did go on the IR this week, so that's another big blow to the offensive line. They've lost a lot of young talent on the old line, the Jets, but still, hey, just like the Giants, it's been next man up, and for some reason, they've been making it work, just like the Giants. It's like every time there's a big blow for my team, the Giants, I feel like, oh my God, this is it. Everything's going to cave in, and everything seems to be okay. It's been the same way with the Jets. Why? Because good coaching. It looks like the Jets have good coaching too. But anyway, like I said, that running game for the Jets is still what they're gonna run, what they're gonna be relying on as they progress with Zach Wilson, as they grow Zach Wilson. And I think they're just going to take it easy with him. I don't think they're going to look to rush him, and they're going to try to continue to run the ball. Okay, let's move on. The Raiders, 2-4. They're not out of things. I thought they needed, these are some games they need to win. They're now 2-4. They're not out of it in the AFC West. They're not, or I should say, listen, they're not going to catch the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I don't think the Raiders are out of a playoff spot by the end of the year. They're not. Raiders have a lot of talent. They defeated the Texans. Listen, they should defeat the Texans. The Texans are now 1-4-1. Final score was 38-20. The running back Josh Jacobs, the Raiders had a monster game. He had something like 3 touchdowns. Monster game by him. Raiders played well overall. Texans, whatever. This team does fight. They're just outmatched in this game, and Texans are just completely outclassed. When it comes to talent. But listen, I think the Texans do. They do. Considering the lack of talent they have, I got to give kudos to the Texans in that they do fight every single game. And I know they got their doors blown off over here, but still, listen, Texans, they need to accumulate bunch of picks and to really start stockpiling young talent on this team. But I still think the Texans are headed in a pretty decent direction. They were just put in such a bad position a few years ago. Put in such a bad position a few years ago. Really, it was horrible. But Raiders got a much needed win. They're now 2-4. I'm not counting the Raiders out yet for a playoff spot at the end of this year. I do think this is a team that's very capable of rattling off like 6 wins in a row. I do. Let's see. Okay, the Seahawks are now 4-3, and they defeated the Chargers 37-23. The Chargers are now 4-3. Chargers are yet another team that's not living up to expectations, and they've had their share of injuries. But you know what? They've had their share of injuries. But I'll tell you what. One thing I've always heard, like the past, like for a long time, is that hey, great quarterbacks elevate crappy talent. Next man up. You have offensive line problems, whatever. You got to work around it. Whatever your starting wide receivers are injured. Well, you got to elevate the guys who are coming up from the practice squad or that you're signing off the street. That's what great quarterbacks do. That's what we've heard, right? That's what I've heard forever. And I always believe that there's only to a certain point that you can do that. Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback in my opinion, no doubt. I'm not breaking his chops, but I am trying to make a point that that's not easy to do. Sometimes it's easier than other times, but I think most of the time it's not easy to do. And the Chargers are still 4-3, and I think that's even with a bad head coach. They are 4-3. They're still in the thick of things, but man, hats off to the Seahawks. Holy cow. Pete Carroll, man, that guy he's a genius. That Seahawks team in the 20 teens the Seahawks were dominant with the Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson just playing great and and the great running game that they had. They won back-to-back Super Bowls. They won one of them. They should have won both of them, but they did win at least one of them. and now he traded Russell Wilson, and he went with Geno Smith, and Geno's having a season like he's never had before. He's looking great, and I have to give kudos to my man Nino Brown here at Toss the Titles, who was talking up Geno before the season. Nino was talking up Geno before the season even started, and I know that I definitely scoffed at that, and I had nothing against Geno, but man, I never thought he'd play like a true starter, like a guy he's like one of the top five quarterbacks in the NFL this year. It's so crazy. And it's not like this is week three. We're talking about week seven. We're almost halfway through the season, and Geno Smith is still playing awesome. And hey, man, and they got their young running back too. I love Walker. He had a good game as well, and they've got the Seahawks had a great draft class. They've got they got their left tackle of the future in Cross, and then in the first round, and they got Walker, I think, in the second round, the running back, Kenneth Walker, might have been third round. I think it was second round, and they wound up getting two rookie corners in this draft. Um, I'm forgetting the names right now. One of them was from UCLA, Tariq Woolen, who I really liked a lot coming out of college. And but he was a projection because he was raw. He was raw. I never expected him to be this good this quick. And there was another guy whose name I forgot, who I never really had on my radar anyway. He's been balling out this year. So those Seahawks cornerbacks out of this year's draft are balling. So Seahawks are looking really good, man. I gotta say. So I got to say, hats off to Pete Carroll. I always liked Pete Carroll, and I'm glad to see that he's getting like this second leash on coaching life, or his third. He originally was the head coach of the Patriots in the 90s for a few years, and then he was a great head coach for USC in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then he was great head coach for the Seahawks. It looked like, oh, the guy's 70 years old, he's probably done. He traded Russ Wilson, and lo and behold, what do we see here now? Seahawks are looking pretty darn dangerous. They're looking really dangerous. So hats off to Pete Carroll, man. I appreciate you, buddy. I appreciate you. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs, who are now 5-2, took care of business against the 3-4 49ers. The final score was 44-23. The 49ers are now 3-4. Man, that NFC West, there's so much talent in that division, though, just like the AFC West, but the NFC West is doing even worse than the AFC West. Um, at least in the AFC West, you've got some teams like with a winning record. Everyone in the NFC West is like 3-4 or worse. So 49ers, I would expect that, especially with Christian McCaffrey, that they're going to be in a very good position going forward. The 49ers are a very talented team. I wasn't surprised that they lost to the Chiefs. I am surprised by this outcome. But listen, the Chiefs are capable of putting this type of game up against anyone. So I think this is more of a fluke than anything. That it's not a fluke that the Chiefs won. It's just a fluke that it was 44-23. But anyway, Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, and that is always a big if with the guy, I got to say. Unfortunately, if he stays healthy, he should be a really nice addition to this offense. But 49ers, I think they are going to wind up winning this division. I think it's going to be between them and the Cardinals. Again, do not discount the Cardinals. They got DeAndre Hopkins back, and they've got Zach Ertz, and they've got Kyler Murray. And that's just with those three guys alone. That is a really potent offense, really potent offense. And the Cardinals still actually have a pretty good defense too. 49ers, they're the most talented team, and I think in that division. I do think they'll wind up winning the division, the 49ers, but this was not a good look. Not a good look. But the Chiefs are looking great. Outside of yet again, they are one of the elite teams in the NFL this year. And outside, I still think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. But in the entire NFL, you got the Bills, the Eagles, the Chiefs as probably as the three best teams. You put them whatever order you want, but those look to be the three best teams. And I also say, do not sleep on the Cowboys. With that defense and with Dak back, I don't think their offense is all that good. I don't think the Cowboys' offense is going to be as good as what we used to see. I don't believe so, even with Dak back. But him just being back is going to make a huge difference. Obviously, the team's going to put up more points. Obviously, the team is going to, consistently, it's going to be more consistent, and they won't have to rely on the defense as much. So I'm not poo-pooing the Cowboys offense, but it's just clear at this point that the defense is really the strength of that team now, and that's okay because their offense is good enough, even if it's not what it was, for the previous 15 years, the Dallas offense that is, it's still going to be good enough. So I got to put the Cowboys up there in the top four in the NFL almost halfway through the season. So rank them however you want to rank them. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Cowboys. To me, those are the top four teams in the NFL so far through week 7. The Bears, man, the Bears are 3-4, and they kicked the crap out of the Patriots, 33-14. Both teams are now 3-4, but the Bears, I got to tell you, man, Justin Fields looked phenomenal this past game, and I thought he was going to get wiped out by Belichick alone. Belichick tears his defenses tear young quarterbacks apart until they eventually figure it out, or at least get good enough to figure out enough against his defenses. No, Justin Fields had a phenomenal game, and man, he looked really great, passing the ball, running the ball. He looked good. Dare I say he looked like a younger version of my boy Danny Dimes. He did. So hats off to you, Justin Fields. I'm rooting for you, buddy. This is definitely the best game of your career so far, your young career so far. Looked really good. The weapons were getting involved. Montgomery, Herbert a little bit. Even Cole Kmet. Holy cow, Cole Kmet is even getting more and more targets and receptions over the past 3 or 4 weeks. So I never thought we'd see that earlier this season. I'd given up on Kmet in terms of ever seeing any offensive production out of the sky. Cole Kmet's actually been getting targets and receptions over the past like 4 weeks. So it's not great. We're not talking like, Rob Gronkowski here, at least not yet, but that's good to see because he should be a weapon in that offense. He should be. And so I'm glad to see Komet has been, he's been getting his play time, in terms of receptions. He's been getting his play time. So but Justin Fields had a phenomenal game. The Patriots, they definitely have the quarterback controversy there. What's going to happen? Mac Jones did start. I think it was just after the first quarter. I don't think it was the first drive. I think it was the first quarter where he was pulled and Bailey Zappi was put in. And Bailey Zappi, it's funny, came right in, right, and immediately led the team down for a touchdown. And then the second possession that he where he was the quarterback led them down again for a touchdown. Everything looks like it's great. It looks like, oh, there is no quarterback controversy in New England. Zappy's going to be the quarterback going forward. And then, he winds up getting sloppy. He winds up throwing like 3 interceptions, and the Bears wind up destroying the Patriots. Don't give up on Bailey Zappi yet. This was a different type of game where he came in. He was not the starter this week. It was Mac Jones, and it was after like the first quarter where Zappi was brought in, and he still performed well. But remember, this dude was like a fourth round pick or third round pick, and he's a rookie, and he did have a great game the previous week he had a great game, Bailey Zappi, and he looked really good. And I still think Zappi is going to be the starting quarterback going forward. At least he's going to get his opportunities. I don't know if this upcoming week he's going to, but I think Zappi is going to get his opportunities to start. And I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I thought like the game the game 2 weeks ago, that I think that was the best that a Patriot quarterback has looked in a long time, even better than Mac Jones last year in his rookie year. And Mac Jones had a good rookie year. He put up admirable numbers. He didn't make mistakes, very few mistakes. And that was the key thing about Mac Jones. I was always concerned about his ceiling. I always thought his floor, and this is, I think, what everyone was saying. Mac Jones' floor was going to be pretty safe, but his ceiling wasn't really too much above that floor, most likely. Looked great last year. Managed the game really, really well. Even made the Pro Bowl, I believe. And he didn't. He minimized mistakes. He really didn't make too many mistakes. Got off to a bad start this year, but I'll tell you, man. Last week Bailey Zappi I thought looked really good, and I want to see if he's got more, if he's got what it takes to be a starter. Because I wouldn't give up on Bailey Zappi after what he showed just like 2 games ago. I wouldn't give up on him yet. But we'll see what's going to happen with quarterback in New England. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And oh, was that it? Was that the last? That's right. That was the Monday night game. All right, everyone. Let's get to the my picks for Week 8. Okay, everybody. So my Week 7 results again, not so great. At least with the spread, I was 7-7 with the spread in Week 7. However, I was 9-5 straight up. That's pretty decent for the season so far. With the spread, I am 52. 53-3, so not very good. Straight up so far this year, I am 57-50-1. Not great, but at least I'm above 500. All right, let's move on to my week 8 picks, everybody. And these are the week 8 spreads from DraftKings Sportsbook as of last night. So right now it's Wednesday night, but I had to put all this information together last night because I had to go to Washington D.C. for work the entire day. So I had to compile all this information last night. So these are the spreads from DraftKings Sportsbook as of Tuesday last night. So if the lines have changed, which some of them may have, I apologize. Okay, so Ravens at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are getting a point and a half. Are getting a point and a half in Tampa Bay at home. Listen, it's been a really really bad year for the Buccaneers. But listen, the Ravens haven't been stellar this year either, and they've got their own injuries that they're dealing with. They do have Gus Edwards back. He looked phenomenal this past week, looking like the battering ram that he is. But I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. I'm assuming with Brady at the helm, the Buccaneers are going to right this ship sooner rather than later. I have to believe in Brady and the talent that the team has. I know their offensive line is really really banged up, and that's been hurting them a lot. But I gotta count on them. I gotta figure that they are going to figure it out. It's a veteran team. It's a smart team. It's a super talented team, and they've got the goat at the helm. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers getting the points at home and the Buccaneers straight up to win a close game. But I think they're going to right the ship this week against the Ravens. I've been wrong about a lot of these games so far this year. I keep expecting the Buccaneers and the Rams and the Packers to right the ship, and they haven't. But listen, I can't. I believe in Tom Brady. I just believe in Tom Brady. Next game, Broncos at the Jaguars. The Jaguars are giving 2.5 points. I'm definitely taking the Jaguars, giving the points, and the Jaguars straight up. Jaguars are a talented team. They are tough and they are hungry. Don't let their 2-5 record fool you. They've been in every single game this year, and the two wins they had were against two teams who we expected a lot from this year. They're not playing great, but still they're good teams on paper. And that is the Chargers and the Colts. The 5 losses that Jaguars had, they were all close games. Jaguars have talent. The Broncos are reeling. I got to go with the Jaguars, giving the points and the Jaguars straight up. Panthers at the Falcons. The Falcons are giving 4.5. Panthers had a great win last week, a great upset against the Buccaneers. But you know what? The Falcons have been playing really tough football, competitive games for the past year and a half. I love the way the Falcons are playing. I got to go with the Falcons, giving the points and the Falcons straight up. The game is in Atlanta. Bears at the Cowboys. The Cowboys are giving 9 points. Bears had a great game against the Patriots, and I loved how Justin Fields looked, man. He looked so comfortable out on that field Monday night. I'm really, really happy for Justin Fields, and I am pulling for that guy. I really am. But I got to go with the Cowboys giving the 9 points and the Cowboys straight up. I think the defense is going to be way too much for the Bears offense. And again, the Cowboys have Dak back, and it looks like Schultz is a lot healthier too. So he's got his full complement of weapons. I think there's some injuries on the offensive line for the Cowboys, but listen, they've got that team. They pretty much know how to plug those holes in the offensive line. They've been doing it for a long time. The Cowboys know what they're doing when it comes to offensive line. And like I said, they have their starting quarterback. Um, I got to assume this isn't going to be a really close game. And also, the Bears just traded away. Is it Harris? Is that his name? A really good defensive lineman was just traded to the Eagles tonight, just a few hours ago. So that's a big hit for their defense. So it's going to hurt them even more. So I'm taking the Cowboys. Given 9 points, I don't think this game's going to be close. I don't. It's nothing against the Bears. You still have a long ways to go in the rebuild, but I love how Justin Fields looked the other night. Dolphins at the Lions. The Lions are getting 3.5 points in Detroit, and Tua looked really good. Against the Steelers the other day, first game back in a few weeks after that scary concussion. He's got his wide receivers. They look good. They look phenomenal. The Dolphins defense is pretty good. Yeah, the Lions are. I don't know if DeAndre Swift has to get back. DeAndre Swift has to get back. Uh, Before he went down, the Lions offense is putting up a lot of points. Um, but until they start doing that again, I have to be betting against them. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins giving the points and the Dolphins straight up. Listen, if honestly, if DeAndre Swift is there, I would expect the Lions to put up points if he's back, but I haven't checked up on him. I'm assuming that he's not back. I'm going to go with the Dolphins giving the points and the Dolphins straight up. Cardinals at the Vikings. The Vikings are laying 4 points. They're giving 4 points. I am taking the Cardinals getting the points, and I'm taking the Cardinals straight up in this game. I think the Cardinals with DeAndre Hopkins back are righting this ship. I think this past victory they just had where they won where they put up 44 points and they won the game. I think that was the game where they righted their ship, and I think they're going to go into Minnesota, and I think they're going to take this game. I do. Now that Hopkins is back, so I'm taking the Cardinals, getting the points, and the Cardinals straight up. Raiders at the Saints. The Saints are getting 2 points at home. I'm going to go with the Raiders giving the points and the Raiders straight up. I think they're going to take that game in New Orleans. Patriots at the Jets. The Jets are getting a point and a half at home. I am surprised about this, that the Jets are getting a point and a half at home. They're 5-2. The Patriots are not looking that good. Um, okay, so I'm taking the Jets getting the point and a half at home. I think it's going to be a close game, and I did take the Patriots straight up because again, Belichick normally, I know he didn't do this past Monday, but he normally destroys young quarterbacks. And Zach Wilson hasn't been particularly impressive since he's gotten back from being injured earlier this year. But I don't think they've been looking for him to be all that great. I think they're trying to bring him along slowly, and they were relying on the running game as they were doing that. That's how I see it with the Jets. Um, but you know what? I'll stick with this. I'll go. I think this will be a close game. I'll go with the Jets getting the points at home, but the Patriots win straight up in a close game, and Belichick just makes life kind of hard for Wilson. Not having Brees Hall there, is going to make a difference. I do like James Robinson. I do like James Robinson. I do think he's going to take over the RB1 position ahead of Carter. I do. And that's don't be. I would not be shocked at all if the Jets win this game. I would not be shocked at all. They're playing really well now, right now, especially their defense. Steelers at the Eagles. The Eagles are giving 10.5 points. I am taking the Eagles giving the points. I am taking the Eagles straight up. Not much to explain there. Titans at the Texans. You know, I'm going to take the Texans getting the points at home. The Texans are getting 2 points at home. I'm going to take the Texans getting the points at home, and I'll take the Titans straight up to win in a close game. Commanders at the Colts. Oh man, the Colts are given 3 points. I have no idea what to expect from this young quarterback that they're starting. I think his name is Ellinger. I think that's his name. The starting quarterback for the Colts going forward. I think his name is Ellinger. I'm gonna go with the Commanders getting the 3 points. I'll take the Colts straight up to win, but I'll go with the Commanders getting the 3 points. I just don't know what to expect from the young quarterback for the Colts. 49ers at the Rams. The Rams are getting a point and a half in LA. Um, Man, 49ers have been so hit and miss this year. Whenever you think they're about to right their ship, they just kind of crap their pants. But, they do have Christian McCaffrey. And I still don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to make the biggest difference in the world for the 49ers offense. I think he would have made a much bigger difference for the Chiefs or the Bills. Not that they have awesome air attacks. It's not like they need a running back of that caliber, but I think he would have been such a great, great compliment to those offenses. I think he would have made a bigger difference there. Um, but I mean, I don't blame the 49ers for making the trade. I mean, McCaffrey, if he's healthy, he's a serious weapon. He's a top elite weapon. He really is. Um, I'm a little worried about this game. The Rams have been willing. They have not looked good this year, but I don't know, something about this game in LA, and this is a big rivalry. Something about it scares me for the 49ers, but I'll go with the 49ers giving the point and a half, and I'll go with the 49ers straight up. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams pull off the upset there, even though they've been reeling. Okay, the Giants at the Seahawks. The Seahawks are giving 3 points. This game's in Seattle. That is always a tough game to play. Listen, I gotta go with the Seahawks giving the points and the Seahawks straight up. I still think this will be a good game. I think the Giants are gonna play really hard and they'll figure out a way to keep it close. But they had some injuries this week, this past week that just I think it's gonna soon get to the point where it's gonna be really hard to overcome. Losing the right tackle for the next 4 weeks at least is not good. Losing their starting left guard for the next few weeks is not good. And losing Bellinger, the rookie tight end, who is becoming an integral part of that offense. I know to most people, outsiders, it wouldn't seem like a big deal. Oh, what's the big deal? Rookie tight end taken in the fourth round. Yeah, he looked pretty good. He looked more than pretty good. He fit this offense to the T for what they want to do. He's an excellent, even as a rookie, an excellent blocking tight end. And he's not Travis Kelce. He's not Mark Andrews. They don't really need that, even though they could use it. Every team could use that. But he was getting, a few targets every game, and he didn't drop the ball. He caught the damn ball, and he already only, we're not even halfway through the season. He already put up 3 touchdowns this year. And it's not like he's really a red zone threat. It's more that he's an end zone threat. When they got to the end zone, or when they're knocking on the door at the end zone, is when they've used Bellinger, and he's produced. So he's probably done for the rest of the year with the eye injury. Hopefully, it's not ending. That's my fear, is that it's career ending with Bellinger. I love that kid. And it's just yet another weapon that the Giants don't have. Right now, all they have is really, in terms of like, they've got Slayton as really their only proven wide receiver, who was almost cut earlier this year. And they've got Wan'Dale Robinson, who's looking really good and who seems to fit this offense to the T. He's going up and up and up and up in targets every single week. He's looking good. Um, but other than that, you've got basically street guys. You have street guys who are out there. You don't even have a promising rookie tight end in Bellinger anymore. We don't know when Kadarius Toney's coming back. Kenny Galladay, I think he's done. He's done. He's done on the Giants. He's there in name, but I think he's not there in spirit. So it stinks, because I think if the Giants, if they didn't suffer those injuries this past week that they suffered with the right tackle, with their tight end, and their left guard, that I would have picked them to win this game. I can't do that right now because the Seahawks look really good. The offense looks really, really good. So yeah, I got to go with the Seahawks in that game. Packers at the Bills. The Bills are giving 11 points. Man, the way the Packers have been playing, I got. Well, I'm definitely taking the Bills straight up, but I'm gonna take the Packers getting the 11 points. It's a big spread, and man, I can't see an Aaron Rodgers team getting blown out like that, even against a team like the Bills that right now seem like they are so much better than Buffalo. I can't see an Aaron Rodgers team getting blown out by more than 11 points. I just can't see it. The Packers have had they've been upset like 3 weeks in a row now, starting with the Giants and then the Jets and then the Commanders. That is ugly. But I don't know. I gotta assume that the Packers. I'm just assuming the Packers are going to show up for this game, and they're not going to win, but they're going to show up and make it competitive. But so I'll take the Packers getting the 11 points. That's a lot of points, and I'll take the Bills straight up. I'm just guessing. That's got to be the biggest spread ever against Aaron Rodgers. I would assume 11 points that has to be the biggest spread ever against Aaron Rodgers. I got to go with the Packers getting the points, getting the 11 points, but I'm certainly taking the Bills straight up. And then last but not least, the Bengals at the Browns. Bengals, I think, are starting to right that ship. The Browns are getting 3.5 points at home. It's a divisional game. I'm definitely taking the Bengals straight up. I think it'll be close. I'll go with the Browns getting the points in Cleveland, even though things are starting to look really ugly in Cleveland. I'll go with the Browns getting 3.5 points at home. That's a decent amount of points at home. It really is. So I'll go with the Browns getting the 3.5 points against their divisional rival, the Bengals. And but I'm definitely taking the Bengals straight up. I think the Bengals are going to be I think they're going to start taking control of that division. I think the Ravens are on really shaky ground. I know they have Gus Edwards back, and that's a big lift, but they've got a lot of injuries themselves. Um, the receiving game is really outside of Mark Andrews. There's really nothing to write home about. I think the Bengals are just starting to get hot. So definitely taking the Bengals straight up in this game. I'll take the Browns getting the 3.5 points at home. My key point is I think the Bengals are about to take control of that division. And that is it, my folks. Okay, gone over a little over an hour right now. My voice is my throat's getting sore. And those are my picks for week 8. Anyway, here are the Twitter handles for me and all my compadres here at Toss the Titles. If you can give everyone a follow, I really appreciate it. We actually just had a new guy start today. His name is Russ. I haven't had a chance to put up his Twitter handle, but I will for the next show. Anyway, if you could follow everyone down here on Twitter, we'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel here on YouTube, if you could please subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. We just reached 800 subscribers today, and I'd love for you to be subscriber number 801. Wouldn't that be special? I think that's special. Anyway, guys, friendly reminder before I go, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review because we deserve it. And there's another show tonight. We've got a really great show tonight. Starting at around 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is Dollars to Deuces, and that is our weekly NFL betting advice program that goes on around 10:30. It's one of my favorite shows. I love it. I will probably be in the chat for at least a little bit, but check it out. That'll be on at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great week. Enjoy your week 8 games, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Take care, everyone.